we married when I was 18 and he was 20. So he graduated from high school in, I believe, 37, and I graduated in 38. And we married in 39. So that was the beginning of our life together. In his first year out of high school, he was offered a job working with a photographer, and George Haley was the photographer's name, and he was a commercial photographer. And he was offered a job with him, and he started there just doing chores for him. But he learned photography really from George Haley, and he liked it, and his parents really wanted him to go on to college, but he got so interested in that, and that's just, he wanted to do that, you know, he just got interested and made that his career. So from then on, that's what he did, was photography. And that's where we started out. Oh, he did commercial, all commercial and industrial photography when he worked there. And as it happened, George Haley was really training him. And at that time, they used the 8x10 cameras. And they had to take those cameras, you know, and all the equipment with them on every job. And every one they went to was different. So sometimes it took a lot of lights and equipment and everything. At other times it wasn't that much. And Don was offered another job with Memphis Engraving Company. So he changed and went to Memphis Engraving and did the same type work there of just regular commercial and industrial photography, and was there until he went into service during the war. He went into the Air Force and went through training, but as he was ready to start his flying, he had to have a thorough medical exam, and they found that he had trouble with his lungs. So they said he could not do the high altitude flying. So he had to give up on that. Then he was given a medical discharge. Came back to Memphis and went right into work again in photography. And this time he went to work for Frank Hitchings and worked with him until Frank Hitchings retired. And then he took over his business and worked in that. And then at one time, he had a partner that worked with him until he had a heart attack, passed away. But Don was all of his life, that's what he did, was commercial and industrial work. And they had opened a studio on Claybrook. And then the expressway was put through on Claybrook. It took over Claybrook Street and that section of it. So they moved to a studio out in Whitehaven that was right at the intersection of the 55 and I-240. It was located right near that intersection. And that's where he worked until he retired. So he was in it many years. My daughter's name is Donna Jean Newman, and she grew up with her daddy in photographic work and doing, from a child, you know, that was the center of our life, was all of his work and what he did. And of course he took a lot of pictures of her, and I have many pictures of her. I have many pictures, period, of everyone, you know, that was centered in his life. And I don't know, it was just a lifetime of photography and everything that went with it. I worked in the studio with him several times. Mm-hmm. And I mainly did the office and answered the calls and kept the books and all of that. And I really enjoyed doing that because we had a variety of people who came in all the time. And it was interesting, and I really enjoyed it. He did take a lot of pictures of Memphis buildings, and some that have been torn down, which was really a disaster, we thought. And but we hated to see it happen. But Memphis went through a period of modernizing everything, and some of the buildings, of course, needed much repair or something, and they would just tear them down and rebuild on the sites, which really changed the landscape quite a bit. And Don took these pictures of the buildings in Memphis, but he started taking them, I think, in the 40s. So it was really the way that it used to be. I mean, the buildings were still in their original state. As time went on, they changed. And, you know, they would modernize some or change the face of them or do something. And then, but his business, he worked for architects here in Memphis and took a lot of pictures of buildings in Memphis, just, I think, almost all of them, really, over a period of time. And he really saw such a change in Memphis, and it really bothered him because he hated to see everything change the way it did. And he took those pictures of Main Street because he felt like it would be changing. They were talking about so much change in downtown and Main Street. So he was really dedicated to preserving a lot of the places in Memphis that we hoped would never change, but eventually so many of them did. And it was in his work, but also he took a lot of the pictures for his own motivation in preserving the looks of the way Memphis, you know, had always looked. So most of his life was spent in photography and photographing everything about the city of Memphis. That a lot of things were unimportant, but a lot of things were very important. So I'm very proud of what he did. I feel like Memphis recognizes it too now.